Yeah, we back. Now today we got an interesting video. We're going to be talking about military cooperation, right? We're going to be talking about how nations can cooperate for their mutual benefit and to advance their common interests. Now today we're going to be talking about the governments of Mali, Senegal, and Ghana, right? Shout out to those brothers. Unlike some other heads of state on the continent who are still operating with an outdated mentality, let's talk about some of the enlightened black men, some of the enlightened heads of state on the continent that make us proud to be black men. Let's talk about the governments of Mali, Senegal, and Ghana. Now, as you can see based on the map, we got Mali, right? And as you can see to their southern border, you have Ghana. So Ghana is their southern neighbors, right? And then you see Senegal. Senegal is their western neighbors, right? They share a western border with Senegal. Now, up until very recently, both of these regimes were very hostile towards Mali. Just up until very recently, both Senegal and Ghana had heads of state that were in the pocket of the Western imperialists, so to speak, right? Who threatened them with sanctions and threatened them with military intervention and were very hostile towards the brothers in the Sahel. And that is partially the reason why Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger had decided to leave the economic community of West African states and create their own alliance, their own geopolitical and military alliance, because they were surrounded by a bunch of hostile neighbors. Not only did those neighbors close their borders, threaten them with sanctions, but they also had threatened them with military intervention, basically saying we're going to mobilize the troops, we're going to send in a military force to restore quote unquote constitutional order. So for those of y'all who were there in the beginning stages of the AES, in the beginning, it was very turbulent in the beginning, right? Very turbulent, very tough times. They had to weather the storm. In a crazy way. Not only were they sanctioned by the entire world in the beginning, but even their neighbors were threatening them with war and threatening to starve them out with sanctions and cutting off trade. But thankfully, by the grace of their ancestors, the brothers had made it out to the other side, right? They weathered the storm. And not only that, but there's been a change of government. There's been regime change that has happened in the region, right? Presidents have left office and new presidents have taken office. And that's where Senegal and Ghana come in, right? See, back in the day, before the new guy came into Senegal, before, Diomaye Faye and Ousmane Sonko took office in Senegal, you had President Macky Sall. And, President Macky Sall, my God, when you talk about somebody who was in the pocket of the Western imperialists, man, it doesn't get any worse than President Macky Sall. When you talk about somebody who was a vassal of France, a vassal of the Western powers, my God, his entire administration was the perfect depiction of what a French vassal looks like. Somebody who is a vassal of the French government. It doesn't get any worse than Macky Sall, one of the most loyal stooges to ever take office in West Africa. When Macky Sall was president of Senegal, French corporate interests were protected, not only protected, but they were given the red carpet treatment. They were given special treatment, priority treatment. And not only French corporate interests, but also the French military was allowed to operate freely on Senegalese soil, right? Whether it was the Air Force, whether it was their troops on the ground. Listen, Senegal was basically an overseas province of France when Macky Sall was the president. And not only that, but he was also a regional enforcer of Western interests. So when nations like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger had came to power in a military takeover, he was one of the first nations that was in lockstep with the Western governments, right? Administering sanctions and threatening military intervention. Now, even with all of these hostilities, did the military governments in Mali or Burkina or Niger decide to go attack Senegal? To go destabilize Senegal? To go kill the Senegalese? No, they didn't. Instead of going on the attack and deciding to go kill other blacks like some other heads of state in the Great Lakes region, Paul Kagame, right? Instead of doing that, what did they do? They decided to take a defensive posture. Let me consult with my brothers in the Sahel who's going through similar things as me. Let me consult with my brothers in Burkina. Let me consult with my brothers in Niger who are going through similar trials and tribulations, right? And let's consolidate our forces. Let's advance our interests as a unit. Let's speak with one voice. Let's move as one body. We don't got to go kill our neighbors. We don't got to go destabilize our neighbors. And as you can see, they weathered the storm. And President Macky Sall, he lost the election, right? Macky Sall, he was out of here, right? And the new guys took office, Diomaye Faye and Ousmane Sonko. Now, even though the new guys in Senegal are not as radical as the brothers in the Sahel, their rise to power is still a positive development because they're not in bed with the Western forces in the same way as Macky Sall was. See, Macky Sall, he was all the way in the bed with the Western powers. He was under the bed. He wasn't in the bed with the Western powers. He was under the bed. And one of the biggest challenges that was facing the nations in the Sahel was, yes, even though they might have kicked out the French government, they might have kicked out the French military, I should say, right? But guess what? The French military was still active in the neighboring countries, was still active over the border, right? The French government was still active in Senegal. The French government was still active in Benin. The French government was still active in Ivory Coast, right? So that threat was still looming over the border. And even still, they still never attacked their neighbors, right? Unlike certain heads of state in the Great Lakes region, who would have taken that as a pretext to go kill thousands of African people. But instead of taking the bloodthirsty approach and spilling innocent blood, what did they do? Like I said, they took a defensive posture, consolidated their forces, fortified their alliances. And now when the new regime in Senegal took power, you started hearing them talk the language of sovereignty, right? The energy of sovereignty was in the atmosphere. They started talking about kicking the French government out, kicking the French military out. Take a look up on the screen. Senegal ends an era with the withdrawal of the French military bases. All 162 Senegalese staff employed by the French element in Senegal have been dismissed following orders from President Diomaye Faye to end foreign military presence inside the country. And now we have this article coming out today. In the arena of defense and security, Mali and Senegal seek to strengthen their military cooperation, right? So now the French driven out of Mali, the French driven out of Senegal. Now Mali and Senegal strengthening their military cooperation, right? Mali didn't go and attack Senegal and destabilize Senegal and topple the regime and kill innocent Senegalese. Even though the regime under Macky Sall was a very hostile regime, like I said, threatened them with sanctions, threatened them with military action, right? So when you threaten somebody with sanctions and military action, you basically, in simple terms, you are threatening to starve them and kill them, right? Because the sanctions is supposed to starve you out. Starve out the population. And the military intervention is a threat on your life. So if we find you, we might kill you, right? So the previous Senegalese administration threatened to starve them and kill them. And even still, they still never attacked their brothers in Senegal, still never killed their brothers in Senegal, because these are enlightened black men, unlike some other heads of state in other regions of the continent. And now with these two nations, Mali and Senegal, signing this agreement for military cooperation, now they'll be able to coordinate their forces and secure their borders. Because unlike other heads of state who say they have to protect their borders and we have to, all this nonsense, Mali has actually been under attack for the past decade. They've been actually dealing with a terrorist insurgency for the past 10 years. And mainly how these terrorists operate is they mainly operate in the border region. So they might launch an attack, and in order to escape retaliation or maybe seek refuge or regroup for another attack, they might escape into the neighboring country, right? They might hop over the border into the neighboring country. So once you go into the neighboring country, you cannot pursue them into the neighboring country, right? So if they escape next door, I cannot pursue them into the sovereign territory of my brother next door, right? I have to respect his territory. I have to respect his borders. I cannot penetrate and invade his country because I'm chasing down a terrorist, right? So when a terrorist goes over the border, there's nothing you could do. But now with this agreement for military cooperation, now you can go over the border. Right now, I can chase the terrorist down next door. If he tries to run next door, I can chase him down and get him. And also, due to the fact that I'm coordinating with the military of that government, we can share intelligence so we can better carry out operations. You see, this is how you promote stability in the region, right? Unlike some other heads of state who the only thing they know is create instability and chaos and murder and bloodshed. Like I said, this is the difference between enlightened black men, black men of the future, the black men of tomorrow, and the outdated dinosaurs who are still operating off outdated mentalities, right? This is the difference, right? This is the difference between the black men of the future and the black men of yesterday. Now, let's jump into these articles. The Minister of Defense and Veterans Affairs, Army Corps General Sadio Kamara, met this Thursday, February 6th, 2025, with his Senegalese counterpart, Barame Diop, and his delegation on a 72-hour visit to the country. On the menu of the meeting, the questions of strengthening cooperation in the field of defense and security. Military cooperation between Mali and Senegal must significantly reduce insecurity on both sides of the common border between the two countries, a border that extends over 419 kilometers in length. Mali and Senegal have in common the same motto: one people, one goal, and one faith. You see, like I said, this is the difference between the enlightened black man of tomorrow and the uncivilized savage of yesterday, right? We doing away with the uncivilized savagery, right? This is the black man of tomorrow, the enlightened black man. He cooperates with his brother. He loves his brother. He loves his women. He loves his neighbors, right? He doesn't want to kill his brother. He doesn't want to sexually assault his sister, right? This is the difference, right? Like Kendrick Lamar said, they not like us. They not like, them boys ain't like us. We different. We different on this side. Let's continue. With these favorable factors, the Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs, Army Corps General Sadio Kamara, and his Senegalese counterpart, Barame Diop, seek to strengthen military cooperation between the two countries in order to effectively fight terrorism. During his meeting with his Malian counterpart, Barame Diop, the Minister of the Armed Forces of Senegal, said he pays tribute to the resilience of the Malian people and saluted the valor of its armed forces, which have been engaged for more than a decade in a crucial battle for the future of Mali and beyond our region. For the Army Corps General Sadio Kamara, the Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs, he said that Mali has left ECOWAS, but it would still like to build fruitful bilateral relations with all of our partners who wish to do so, in particular with the sister Republic of Senegal, in accordance with the principles enacted by the transition in terms of bilateral cooperation, namely the respect for Mali's sovereignty, the respect for the strategic choices and the choices of partners made by Mali, and taking into account the interests of the Malian people in the decisions taken. Now, I want to give a shout out to the brother on the left, General Barame Diop, General in the Senegalese Armed Forces, and the brother to the right, big dog Sadio Kamara, General in the Malian Armed Forces. Shout out to my brothers, man. Shout out to the enlightened black men of tomorrow. We changing the narrative, right? We changing the narrative. We're not killing our brothers. We're not invading our brothers. We're not destabilizing our brothers. We're not killing our sisters. We're not hurting our sisters. We doing things different into the future, bro. All that outdated nonsense from the 90s and the 80s and the 19th century, man, listen, tell them boys update the technology, right? We in the future with, cell phones and iPhones. Them boys still on the flip phones. Them boys still on the goddamn, them big brick phones from the 90s. Them boys still talking on the brick phones, man. Listen, tell them to update the technology. Anyways, man, let's talk about Ghana, right? Let's get into Ghana. Now, the situation in Ghana was very similar to the situation in Senegal with the previous administration. Like I said, Nana Akufo-Addo definitely in bed with the Western imperialists, right? I wouldn't say that he's under the bed, right? Like when it came to Macky Sall, the previous president of Senegal, he was under the bed, right? They had that boy under the bed. When it came to Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana, he wasn't under the bed, but he was in the bed, right? He was in the bed. Now, when it comes to Ghana, Ghana is not a direct neighbor of Mali, but Ghana is connected to Mali via Burkina Faso. So Ghana is a southern neighbor of Burkina Faso, and Burkina Faso is a neighbor of Mali, right? So it's not a direct connection, but it's still bordering on AES territory because Burkina Faso is an AES member state. And when Nana Akufo-Addo was still in power before he lost the election about a month ago, one of his most egregious offenses was when he met with the United States Secretary of State at the time, Anthony Blinken, right? And he was actually feeding intelligence to Anthony Blinken in terms of the military activities of what the nations in the Sahel were doing, what the AES was doing in terms of their military operations, the military technology and things like that, right? So Nana Akufo-Addo was definitely a treasonous neighbor, right? You could say he was definitely treasonous and trying to play both sides of the fence. And obviously that poses a threat to national security. But even still, like I said, because these are the enlightened black men of tomorrow, they never went and attacked Ghana, right? Ibrahim Traore never mobilized the army and said, we're going over the border, right? We're going down and we're going to go capture the capital of Accra, right? We're going to go, we're going to go destabilize Ghana. We're going to go spill the blood of the Ghanaians by the thousands and millions. No, because these are the enlightened black men. So instead, what did they do? Instead of going on the offensive and attacking their brothers, they simply maintained a defensive posture, right? Secure the border, right? Secure the airspace, right? So make sure that if anybody attacks us, we have the means and capacity to defend ourselves. But we're not going to go attack our brother. We're not going to go kill our sister. We're not going to go kill our neighbors. And that is the difference between the enlightened black men of tomorrow and the barbarian of yesterday. And now recently in Ghana, we see the fall of the regime of Nana Akufo-Addo. He was voted out of office, and now we see the rise of the new administration of President John Mahama, who, like I said, is way more open, way more friendly, and way more cooperative with the regimes in the Sahel. But guess what? What if Mali and Burkina Faso took the aggressive approach and attacked Senegal and attacked Ghana? Would they have been able to form those friendly relations with Ghana and Senegal in the modern day? Of course not. They would have burned that bridge. That bridge would have been burned, right? But considering, like I said, when you are an enlightened black man, you can see into the future. You can make positive calculations, right? For the collective benefit of your entire race and not only your personal tribe, right? When you're an enlightened black man, you can think beyond your personal tribe. You can think of the collective globally, right? Our geopolitical interests as a collective, right? When you're a barbarian, only thing you care about is your tribe. That's it. Everybody else can go die, right? But when you're an enlightened black man of the future, you make different calculations. Now, let's get into it. Take a look up on the screen. Ghana and Mali vowed to strengthen security ties. Let's get into it. Our security is a common objective, and we must work with each other to make sure our sub-region is safe. Ghana President John Mahama told the press after his meeting with General Abdoulaye Maïga in the capital of Accra. If your neighbor's house is on fire, you must assist them to quench it, otherwise it will spread to yours. You see, when you're an enlightened black man, this is how you calculate, right? If your neighbor's house is on fire, if my brother's house is on fire, I must come to his assistance, right? But when you are a tribalist barbarian like certain heads of state in the Great Lakes region, when your neighbor's house is on fire, you know what you do? Let me pour the gasoline, right? Let me pour gasoline all over the fire so the fire can spread all over the region, right? A little tiny fire that started in my backyard. Let me spread it all over the goddamn region, all over Central Africa, right? Yeah, when you're a barbarian, that's how you move. But when you're an enlightened black man of the future, you make different calculations. Now, right here, you have the president of Ghana to the right, meeting with the prime minister of Mali to the left, General Abdoulaye Maïga, one of the close comrades of Assimi Goïta, right? As you can see right here, standing behind Assimi Goïta, right? So this is one of Assimi Goïta's close associates, one of the high-ranking men in the AES. I'm sure if you've been following the AES from the very beginning, a very familiar face, right? I'm sure you've seen the face. I'm sure you've heard the voice. Shout out to the big dog, General Abdoulaye Maïga, Prime Minister of Mali. Now, listen, man, like I said, the enlightened black man of the future, he loves his brother. He loves his neighbor. He loves his women. He doesn't attack his brother. He doesn't spill innocent blood of those who share his reflection, especially those of his neighbors. Now, when it comes to self-defense, that's different. If necessary, maintain a defensive posture. Make sure systems are in place to defend yourself against any adversary, against any circumstance. But we don't go attack our brothers. We don't go invade our brothers. We don't do that. Like I said, imagine if Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger went off the knee-jerk reaction and took an aggressive stance. Guess what? They would have burned those bridges. They would have destroyed those relationships, right? Because now, with the new guy in office, with new guys in office who are now presidents, now, because they didn't go burn those bridges, now look what's happening. Now we got military cooperation. Now we can share intelligence. Now we can operate across the border. Now he can come into my country and I can go into his country. He can come into my territory. I can come into his territory. We are cooperating as allies in a common fight for our collective benefit, right? We are not attacking each other and destroying each other and destabilizing each other. And in the process, hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians dying as casualties. Like I said, man, that's the difference between the black man of tomorrow, the enlightened black man, and the barbarian of yesterday, right? You see, when it comes to the enlightened black man of tomorrow, we're like the brand new iPhone, right? You see, the barbarian of yesterday, that's the flip phone. That's the brick phone, right? That's the BlackBerry. That's the PlayStation 2. That's the outdated technology. We are the new operating system. We are the new technology, the latest technology on the market, right? Anyways, man, it's a boy Nefikar. That's a lean back in the Billy. Yes, indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the channel, man. Support the album. Peace.
Told me she loved me and said that it's real. So independent, ain't signing no deal. Feel like a king and I'm up at Cap Henry. I'm in the citadel, top of the hill. Trying to run up but we let off a cannon. Secret location, I'm keeping it sealed. You ain't retaliate, Franco Medina. Came to the country and he got killed. You ain't retaliate, Rafi and Mans. Thought you was loyal, thought you was real. Didn't even want to come pick up the body. Had your man locked up, he died in the cell. Up at the palace, I'm throwing a party. Right on the south and I'm giving them hell. And my little shorty, she looking exotic. African features, she casting a spell. Run to the check like I work on my fitness. Wake up each morning and handle my business. Said that she love me, she want my genetics. Wanna get married and make it official. Wanna get married and have my babies. Up in the city, I'm riding Mercedes. Up in the city, they treat me like royalty. Feeling like Dolph, talking about lords. Spreading my wings and I had to get fly. Up in the top, an incredible vibe. Came from the bottom, I'm up in the sky. Gave one look and said, baby, you fine. Wake up each morning and handle my business. They just be talking, you see me, I live it. Ride on my enemies, sounding like thunder. 1804, got that shit in my spirit. 1804 when I step in the building. 1804, that's word of my mother. Rock my women and die for my brother. Never gon' fall when I'm deep under pressure. Tell them we back and they better accept it. Move like a king, every step is divine. Ride on my enemies with no exception. Taking revenge and I'm taking what's mine. Pour up a drink and it's time that we toast. Watching my back, keep my enemies close. Only the family, I stick with my brothers. Cannons position outside of the coast. Heavy artillery for the protection. Move like a general, stick to the code. Feel like a king when I'm up in the north. Beautiful women, they trying to get chose. Launch an invasion all over the south. Capture the capital with all my woes. Look at my energy and my demeanor. Dripping that ice and that's head to my toes. Lately I'm flexing all on the Americans. Flexing my muscle on missing my road. Just got a carriage, just coming from London. Boy, that shit cash, I ain't taking no loans. Boy, that shit cash, that's fresh on the boat. Enemy know I got millions in gold. Enemy know I got choppers and cannons. How did I do it? They can't understand it. How did I do it? It's cause I'm relentless. Call me King Harry, my name is cemented. Call me King Harry, I'm up in the palace. Call me King Harry, I'm raising the status.